Morning guys, Dakota here with Kindle the Fire. I'm out here this morning in National Forest, just hiking a small little foot trail that goes right alongside this creek. Beautiful little creek. Keep getting openings like this. You can get down into the water, you can walk across rocks right across the water. It's really beautiful this morning. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find a nice place, maybe a fire pit that somebody's left, and we're going to talk a little bit about blanket modifications, why I bring blankets with me, why I tend to prefer them, advantages, disadvantages, and simple modifications that you can do to make your blankets give you more bang for your buck. Anyways, stay with me guys, and I'm gonna go find a fire pit. Alright guys, well, I came up on this fire pit. It's a day use only fire pit that somebody's built and left here. The site itself isn't too bad, but could be a little cleaned up. So let's clean her up and then we'll start talking. Alright guys, so this is actually the bedroll that I prefer to go out with. If I'm going out on a day hike, or if I'm going out on a one, maybe 2 night trip, then I will usually prefer to take this. I usually check the weather first, see if I'm going to have any chance of precip, if I'm going to have any snow, any rain. If that's going to be there, then I will usually throw a tarp in with this. Doesn't have to be a fancy tarp, it can be a straight $7 tarp from Wally World, does not matter. But this is how I like to carry it. So this bedroll is pretty simple. Obviously you can see my tomahawk on the top. What I've got is a market wallet just kind of on one of the straps. This is for really just traditionalism, and if I find any dry materials, then I'll go ahead and put them in there, so that way I have dry tinder. Always good to be picking up dry tinder. And then I've just got it carried with a custom bedroll strap that I made years ago and works out pretty well. What I've got in here is I've got 2 wool blankets. I've got a OD green military wool blanket that's about 90% pure wool and then 10% recycled wool. It's rather thick. It's a little bit bigger than a full size, but it's not quite a queen. And then I've got my brown one underneath is a really thick wool blanket that's actually just shy of a king size that I got off of the internet years ago. Both of these blankets, the OD green one and the brown one underneath, are blankets that I have modified. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the modifications that I've made on these blankets and show you some other variation modifications that you can do. What this does is it allows these blankets to be very multifunctional in the amount of things that they can do. What I want multifunctional items for is if anything can do 2 or 3 more jobs, then that's less items I have to carry. Thus, I'm a little bit more comfortable when I go out on trips. So these 2 blankets, let's go ahead and open them up. The obvious first modification that I've made so far is obviously a decorative one. This modification is simply a personal choice. I get real sick of my OD green blanket getting mixed up with everybody else's, and so I try and make my stuff as much my stuff as I possibly can. This is all personal choice. I only did this on one side, so that way if I turned it inside out, you couldn't notice it at all. It was just all green on the other side. So that's really nice for if for some reason I need to use it for any kind of concealment purpose. So I have a hood I sewed in on the longer side with these little ties on either side of the hood. Now the reason I did this is because you'll see a lot of times people will try and make something called a match coat. A match coat is a very simple way that you use a wool blanket to basically make an overcoat for yourself with a hood. And I can show you that using the side that doesn't have the hood on it. So basically my blanket will just be upside down, which is fine. Now a match coat is usually pretty simple, and I'll try and give you a quick demonstration, but I won't make a full match coat. You take everything, you're going to hold up your blanket like this. You have the long side on the top and the bottom, short side, left and right. You drape it behind you, try and even it, right? Now some people, you'll see a lot of people just wrap up in a blanket like this. Just kind of toss their arms over the side. If you're standing by a fire or something, this is fine. This is great. It covers my neck, covers my shoulders, a couple layers over my body. It's perfectly fine. If I need to, I can throw a bag across me and this will hold just like this, just fine. You don't need a pin, you don't need anything. But what a lot of people do if they want to have a layer on their head or a hood, you actually pop it up and over as such. Give a generous amount, so usually about down to your nose or so. Bring it in, and they'll pin it right there. Now they have a hood. They'll wrap themselves up in it. Then they'll take a string and tie it around their waist. That way their arms don't have to hold this, and they can just be free-flowing. There are advantages to a match coat like that. However, I have issue with that. For me personally, I don't want to keep making holes in my blanket by sticking a pin in my blanket constantly. I'll throw it on wrapped up as I just showed you, but I don't like to make more holes in my blanket. So what I did instead was I put on a hood on one of the sides and ties. So all I did was just pieces of leather with paracord run through them, as well as toggles. This now frees me up from having to put holes in my blanket. Now I can just drape this straight across my shoulders and tie these straight together to each other. Now, this will look really close to a cloak. And you can wear it as such if you want. Nothing wrong with that. I can take a rope. I can simply double it over on itself as such. Lean over. Toss the rope around the top of my hip. Bring down as such. I'm going to adjust the blanket. This part might take a little bit of practice for some people. It might take a little bit of readjustment once you've tied. All you're trying to do is just get multiple layers wrapped around you. So once I've wrapped it around me, I'm going to take my rope, I'm going to pass it through itself as such. I'm just going to pull it tight on itself. Now, pull it as tight as I want, as tight as comfortable. Now send it up under itself and send that back through. By doing that, now it's tight, and if I want to undo it, I just pull this. Very simple, very comfortable. So after a little adjustment, this is basically what my version of the match coat looks like. I have a very generous hood. I can come out of it very easily, but I'm still covered on my chest, arms, half my torso, and my legs. This, for me, is extremely comfortable, and it is a variation that I think some of you might be interested to try. I can even drop it and let it flow, almost like a great kilt. If I'm hiking and wearing it previously, and I'm getting too hot, I can pull the strings, drop it like this, and just keep. So now we have my thick brown wool blanket. Again, this one is just shy of king size. It's a very large wool blanket. And again, I've made kind of similar modifications. I did not put a hood on this one. What I did is modify this so that way I can sleep in it more comfortably without falling out of the blanket. A lot of times if I wrap up just cocoon style in a blanket and I'm sleeping next to a fire, I tend to roll in my sleep and I will actually roll my way out of my blanket. That's not something that's very comfortable, obviously, when it's 20, barely 30, even in the teens. It's not very comfortable. So just like the toggles on my green blanket, what I did was I just put some wider square toggles sewn into the blanket. I just sewed those with artificial sinew. And these are very important. I'll show you how. Alright, so for the modifications I've done to my larger wool blanket are very simple. I put in toggles on various parts of the blanket, and I've made it to where I can wrap up in the blanket a little bit easier and a little bit more comfortable. So all I have to do is if I position the toggles where I have one by my knee and one by my hip, I can throw the blanket over, and since I have toggles that align on the outside edge of that blanket, I can actually tie those together. This will make a layer obviously on top and below me as now. And then I can throw the other side over as well. I have more toggles lined up. Again, lining them up by my hips and my knees. Now if I kind of kick the end up under me, now I have extra layers underneath my feet, a couple layers on top of me, one layer underneath me, and all this back here, so now I can just wrap up inside. Now if I want to get really tight in here, I obviously can cocoon it twice over me. It's long enough to wrap up under my head and fold over my head, so that way I have more layers underneath my head. I've done this modification to this blanket because now I can vent very well if I'm getting too hot in the middle of the night. It's also nice because for me, I toss and turn out of blankets a lot. So this, I can't roll out of this blanket, it will stay on me. If I have a fire in front of me, I can feed this very easily and then just throw this part back over me and go straight back to sleep. It's not very hard. The last advantage of this is if I do need to get out of my blanket quickly for any reason, I just simply pull the toggle and I'm free. Thank you guys for joining me today and letting me show you some of the modifications I've done with my blankets. Hopefully it might inspire you guys to look at different modifications that you guys can do, not only to your blankets, but to any of your gear. I feel like modifying one's gear obviously will make it work better for ourselves, but also kind of personalize it and really, let's have some fun with this out here. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead, get my blanket roll wrapped back up, and then I got to get out of here. So take her easy, guys, and thank you very much for watching.